Everyone deals with tragedy in their own way. Mother's Instinct was distributed by Neon Studios. It was directed by Benoit Delhomme, who's done cinematography for various projects. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. This is based on a novel by Barbara Don't Call Me Cain Abel. The film was written by Sarah Conrad, who did Hereafter, and this was based on the film by Oliver Masset de Passe. If I mispronounce any of these names, I do apologize. This has Jessica Chastain as Alice, Sweet Alice, no, just Alice, but Alice, Sweet Alice certainly would have been a better inclusion than whatever we got here. Sorry, tipping my hand a little bit early, but Jessica Chastain, very, very talented, a bright, beautiful actress that really just has a commanding, ethereal presence about her. You could put her in a 1950s setting like in this. You could put her in any other, contemporary projects, and she will excel because she's really goddamn good. She was able to actually make Mama passable, more or less, kinda. Even upon rewatching that film, it was a little bit dicey, but that being said, at least it had a nice setup until the end. Speaking of which, let's continue to talk about Mother's Instinct. So, you can't have Mother's Instinct without having two mothers. Two warring mothers torn between two peer groups. So, Alice, Sweet Alice, has a friend, Celine. Not Celine Dion, not That's the Way It Is. Played by Anne Hathaway. How is Anne Hathaway in her early 40s, yet she looks the same as she did, about 20 years ago? That being said, incredible genetics. Or whatever. Let's move on from that. So, they are two housewives living in an idealistic 1950s setting or early 1960s. I'm not necessarily certain, and I don't really care. Hey, we rented all these vintage cards, and damn it, we're going to use them. The 50s, back when everyone said, hey, all the time. Hey, can I get Sky Miles if I put this on my Visa Gold? Anybody who gets that reference, I love you guys. Certainly better writing than what we got here. I'm sorry, I'm tipping my hand. I really am tipping my hand early. So they have respective husbands. Alice, Sweet Alice, is dating Simon. Anders Danielson, Lee, I don't care. And Demian, not Priest, Josh Charles. So there's talent in front of the camera. I'm certain there's talent behind the camera. The film is slickly produced and looks good and is well shot, at least for part of its runtime. So basically, they are two mothers. And they have two sons. Max is Celine's son, and Theo is Alice's son. And then, unfortunately, tragedy strikes a lone gunman. No, none of that. We just have a tragedy strikes. And then paranoia. Everybody's coming to get me. You said you never left me. And somebody is trying to get at old Theo. Or maybe it's all in somebody's head. Are they happy? Are they feeling bad? Do they got sunshine in a bag? Are they useless? Not for long. This film, it just plods along. Because despite the talent in front of the camera and despite Jessica Chastain and Anne Hathaway not only being talented actresses, but incredibly attractive and not only having those great screen presences that they have had for many, many years, they can only carry this schlop so goddamn long. Why did I say schlop like that? I don't know. So, yeah, I was looking forward to this one, Neon Studios, and you have Jessica and Anne Hathaway as 50s housewives with a possible Hitchcockian inspiration. Sign me the fuck up. Unfortunately, this was Hitchcock after he died. I think Hitchcock's corpse could have done something better, because sadly, this film reaches an obvious conclusion where, you could kind of feel something for any of the characters that met an end, or any of the characters that survived, except you can't. Like, none of these characters actually have any growth at all. Like, they just exist in this universe that doesn't really seem like it's actually legit. It's not chilling. It's goofy. It gets goofier later on. I actually was having to stifle laughter multiple times in it. Yeah, this is a complete waste of talent. I did pay, $6.50, almost $7 after taxes to watch this, so I feel throwing a few bucks at least warrants my right to talk about the fact that this film isn't good. I'm never going to pirate movies. I'm never going to do that. If they're not on a streaming service, I will gladly pay a few bucks on Amazon to watch them. But that being said, yeah, this isn't good. This isn't good at all. I was looking forward to it. Neon Studios and talented people in front of the camera. And it was a waste, a complete waste. I'm going to get into spoilers. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, basically, the accent. See, I tried to keep it as spoiler-free as far as the, what they revealed in the trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer, then this is where the spoilers start to happen. How is Anne in her early 40s is what I noted, so we get a bit of setup, and then Max is hanging up a birdhouse on the porch, on a deck. It doesn't seem like it should be in a 50s house, but I digress. And then he falls to his death. But Alice, sweet Alice, tries to get at him, but can't. Celine was vacuuming. And then, Celine gets there and realizes, what the hell's going on? Why are you running in my house? And oh my God, my son's dead. And oh, you did it. You pushed him. You bitch. Except she didn't. Me thinks that Celine was always a bit of a sociopath. So, yeah, she doesn't understand that Alice is trying to stop him from falling. Theo is taking it rather well at first, and then isn't. They are trying to be good neighbors because State Farm is not there yet. I think State Farm is around the 50s. I'm not actually sure. So, yeah, the paranoia starts to take everybody. They go to the funeral. There is a stuffed rabbit that Theo had. I can never get away from stuffed rabbits being part of horror movie plots or suspense thrillers or whatever. Just recently watched the Speak No Evil remake. Oh boy. But let's just say that Celine decided to put the rabbit in her son's casket. And Theo gets upset, makes a scene. Obviously, this is either Celine trying to drive a wedge or Celine didn't think that anything was, going to come of it. Spoiler, Celine's trying to drive a wedge. Why? Because Celine blames Alice, sweet Alice. 1 month later, Celine has come back from a trip no doubt where she was at some kind of mental hospital that didn't actually end up doing any good for her. She thinks she's not doing well, nor is Damien. I wouldn't either if I was named after the titular character of The Omen. Well, the main character of The Omen. Nevertheless, Celine basically just wants, to let Theo know that she is there. And Theo is kind of a dickish kid, I do want to say. I'm not saying that his mother is necessarily the best, and they're trying to move on, and Theo lost his best friend, so he'd be upset. Celine can't have another baby because her womb is diseased, or she had to have a hysterectomy, or a herterectomy. So, yeah, the parents cracked up. Alice, sweet Alice, lost her parents in a car wreck, but that doesn't compare to what Celine suffered, because Alice, sweet Alice I could stop saying that, but I won't, was in the back of a car, and then an accident happened. She's had, paranoia, anxiety ever since. And, yeah, this is pretty boring and dreadful, and aggressively boring, actually. Theo wants Celine at his birthday party. There's a grandmother. A grandmother is supposed to take heart medication, but she doesn't take a heart medication. She ends up falling and having a heart issue and dies. Well, holy shit, what the hell's going on? Oh my goodness. This is right after, by the way, the grandmother says, Celine, maybe you shouldn't be here because it's not fair to Theo. And then suddenly she dies. Convenient. Almost like somebody's killing them. It's Celine. Of course it is. They don't do a very good job going against this. Some people compared this to Twist and Eileen. Eileen was slickly produced and actually had a good pace to it. So, Alice starts to suspect foul play. And she ends up kind of getting a fight with her husband, Simon. And, yeah, there's like a bit of a thread where they're like thinking maybe Alice's paranoia is just getting the best of her and Alice, sweet Alice, is going to have to go to an institution. But also Celine is just continuing to make sure that things are okay. Also, oh yes, there is an allergy that Theo has, and that ends up happening when he has a certain type of cookie. And he doesn't die in the hospital, by the way. Theo is a really dumb kid, is what I noted. There is one point just before this allergic reaction where basically Theo had heard from Celine. The grandmother and Max are in a better place, so he's like, I'm going to dive off this goddamn deck and everything, and then they rescue him and everything's fine. But the idea is now, all of a sudden, Simon's job was able to clear up something. A colleague is leaving, so they will actually be able to move houses in 2 weeks. But they won't need 2 weeks because they're going to be dead. But then, this is where things just totally switch up. So, Theo's fine. He survives his ordeal. And then Celine chloroforms her husband and makes it look like, he took his own life. That's never the answer, but I would never that. But they have Celine stay with them. And then this is after one time where Alice, sweet Alice, tried to go to her house and figure out some info and then got caught. But then a little bit later, everything's fine, don't worry. Celine obviously didn't kill her husband, except she did, and then goes to Celine's house. And Alice, sweet Alice, finds a whole bunch of chloroform and a whole bunch of pills. that look remarkably similar to the ones that Grandma Jean was taking, or Granny Jean. Grandma Jean makes it just sound like Grandma B's, where the Road Warriors and various others used to do bouncing. So, Celine then uses chloroform or drugs drugs Simons' drink. I don't know. She also chloroforms Theo just enough to knock him out because she talked about this magic, sleeping potion that helps everybody go to sleep and then they come back. So, she then tries to chloroform Alice, Sweet Alice, but gets sent down the stairs briefly, but not enough to where anything bad's going to happen. Alice, Sweet Alice then goes to her son, but then, Celine shows up and chloroforms her. You could have easily hit her. I know she was drugged, but you could have just grabbed something and hit her. Whatever, it's fine. And then she stages it to look like a crime, and then Celine adopts Theo. That is literally the film. That is literally the goddamn film. And I would have been totally into it, at least enough to recommend it if there was actual pacing to it and it wasn't just like everybody got chloroformed and then was put out there on camera. Talent in front of the camera, don't know about talent behind the camera. And yeah, the writer also doing this movie Hereafter that's on my watch list. If it's anything like this, we are in for a tough haul. F. It gets a really, really low F as opposed to a high F. Oh, high F. Not Axel F. It's really, really bad. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.